All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Is it loud enough, Robert? Sweet. How is everyone doing today? Good. Good day? And Henry said it was all week? Oh. Henry said she was laying down all week. Is that not from sickness? Okay, cool. All right. Let's jump into the sermon this morning, or this afternoon. That's never going to go away. So I wanted to share with you all. I would have shared during communion, but I needed this event to be the intro to my sermon, so I didn't share with you guys yet. But this has been a hard week for me, and if it wasn't for the fact that God showed up in my quiet time Tuesday morning, I don't think I would have made it through this week as well as I did. And so on Tuesday morning, hey Lincoln, could you open the door for your dad? Oh, never mind. No. And so, yeah, God showed up in my quiet time this Tuesday morning, and my week would have been so much worse if he didn't. What I realized with him showing up is how much he cares about even the smallest details that are going on in your life. For some reason, God cared enough to talk to me Tuesday morning. He cared about what was going to happen this week and that I would be well prepared in order to handle it. He cared about what was going to happen in this section of Bulverde Spring Branch area, and so he showed up and he encouraged and he emboldened me. And what he said Tuesday morning, what he had told me was, "Will you take hold of pastoring? Will you put a firm grip around pastoring?" And in fact, what I heard deep within was, "Buckle up, Buttercup." That's what he told me. Buckle up. And it was I need you to be prepared for this week and what's about to happen. It blows me away that he cares that much. When Tuesday morning happened, I didn't care what he said. It was just, my God has spoken to me once again. And it's that whole butterfly feeling that occurs all over. The God of the universe just spoke. And there's a song that talks about being completely undone. And that's that feeling that I had on Tuesday. I was talking to my dad, and he was reading through Genesis again, and this was before he knew Tuesday happened, but he was telling me about Genesis and how meticulous God is with creation, where he takes day one and he does something in preparation for day two. He already knows day two is coming, and so he takes day one and does the details in order that day two may happen. And then when day two comes, he does the details in order for day three to happen. And the point that I'm getting at is that our God cares about details, and that he is a meticulous God who really does, and I'm going to say this a lot today, who really does care. It made me realize that each piece of the puzzle, or each person, or each neighborhood, or each city, each nation is crafted and held together by him. Read this verse, Colossians 1:17 with me. It says, "He is before all things, and by him all things are held together." That's the God that we worship. He holds all things together. How many of you guys have seen the documentary Indescribable by Louis Giglio? Never. Okay. You have? Blows my mind, right? Yeah. Look at this picture. Look at that picture. This picture was taken 31 million light years away. They found a black hole with a galaxy, and they pointed the Hubble telescope in 1992 at the center of this black hole. And when the picture came back in the middle of it is just a cross. And I remember when Luli Giglio was presenting this, I was blown away. I'm going 31 million miles away. God decided just to drop this in the middle of nowhere. That the day that we discovered that galaxy and took pictures of it, God's just going, hey, I'm right here too. I cared about that little detail, and so I just did something there. I signed my name on creation, that when you open that picture, you would know that God, the creator of the universe, is 31 million miles away also. But this doesn't just apply to a cosmic scale. This applies to the macro also. Look at Luke chapter 12, verse 7. It says, indeed, the hairs of your head are all counted. Don't be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows. And so we have a God who cares about details 31 million light years away. And we have a God who cares about details about how many hairs are on the top of your head. That's the God that we worship. That's the God that we are talking about this afternoon. From the vastness of the universe to the smallest cell in your body, our God is a God of details. Nothing is random, and everything is precise. And as we were at men's group this week, we're reading James chapter 2, we were talking about how God does not show favoritism. How God is a God who is just consistent through and through, that he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that the reason that we can actually count on the God that we worship is because he is unchanging. Because you don't have to guess what mood God is in. He is always a certain way, that you can actually rely on him for salvation, that you can rely on him for comfort, that he is just a reliable God. And that reliable God is the one who holds all things into his hands. Look at the detail right here. My mom texted me this morning and said, will you read Romans chapter 8, verse 28? Look at this detail that God just gave. Romans 8:28, we know that all things work together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. My mom didn't have to send me that this morning, but it's found its way into the sermon today because God is a God who cares about details, that he meets you and cares for you and knows what you need to hear at certain times. Does that make sense? And how can we believe that all things work together for the good of those who love God? Because our God by nature is trustworthy. He holds all things in his hands, and we are promised by him that it will work out for our good. Are you guys with me so far? Okay. I discovered another place where God has signed his name in the smallest details, and I would like to just share with you today. And so if you will, open to Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1 is typically a chapter that we all just skip over. It's one of the most random places to find God's signature in the details, because as you turn there, you're going to see it's just a genealogy. When you guys read it, does anyone actually ever read the genealogy? Sherry? You've read it before, yeah. Once you've done it once. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So Matthew chapter 1, let's start in verse 1. An account of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Let's pause right there. What's Matthew's point of this genealogy? It's there in the first verse. What's his point? Yeah. Matthew is taking Jesus and connecting him to David and to Abraham. That's Matthew's point here. Yeah, I'm going to show you Jesus, and I'm going to show how he's connected to two promises and covenants. And so let's first look at Abraham. Abraham was given a promise. In Genesis chapter 12, 1 through 3, it says, "The Lord said to Abram, go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." What's the Abrahamic covenant? That God's going to take Abraham and create a people out of his lineage. And here's what it says about Jesus and him fulfilling that promise. In Galatians chapter 3, verse 16, it says, "Now the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed." He does not say "and to seeds" as though referring to many, but referring to one, "and to your seed, who is Christ." And so Matthew here is taking Abraham and the promises of Abraham and saying, do you see how Jesus fulfills it? Abraham was promised generations of people who will be his. And Paul's going, do you not see that Jesus is the seed of Abraham? Do you see Matthew's point so far? He is the fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant. So let's look at David then. David was also given a promise in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 16. "Your house and kingdom will endure before me forever, and your throne will be established forever." This is the Lord speaking to David. Your house and kingdom will endure before me forever, and your throne will be established forever. And let's look how Jesus fulfills that promise now. Luke chapter 1, verse 30 says, "Then the angel told Mary, 'Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Now listen, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom will have no end.'" And so Matthew is looking at the Abrahamic covenant and going, Jesus fulfills that. And he's looking at the Davidic kingship and going, Jesus has fulfilled that as well. And I bring these 2 points up to you because I need you to keep them in mind as we read this genealogy. Jesus is the fulfillment of both. And so, are you ready for me to mispronounce a bunch of names? Let's do it. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac fathered Jacob, and Jacob fathered Judah and his brothers. Judah fathered Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez fathered Hezron, and Hezron fathered Aram, and Aram fathered Aminadab, and Aminadab fathered Nahshon, and Nahshon fathered Salmon, and Salmon fathered Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz fathered Obed by Ruth, and Obed fathered Jesse, and Jesse fathered King David. David fathered Solomon by Uriah's wife. Solomon fathered Rehoboam. Rehoboam fathered Abijah. Abijah fathered Asa. Asa fathered Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat fathered Joram. Joram fathered Uzziah. Uzziah fathered Jotham. Jotham fathered Ahaz. And Ahaz fathered Hezekiah. Hezekiah fathered Manasseh. Manasseh fathered Amon. Amon fathered Josiah. And Josiah fathered Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. After the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah fathered, I don't even want to try this, Shealtiel, that one, who fathered Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel fathered, anyone have a shot? Abud, okay. Abud fathered Eliakim. Eliakim fathered Azor. Azor fathered Zadok. Zadok fathered Achim. Achim fathered Eliud. Eliud fathered Eleazar. Eleazar fathered Mathan. Mathan fathered Jacob. And Jacob fathered Joseph, the husband of Mary, who gave birth to Jesus, who was called the Messiah. Ooh. Verse 17. So all the generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations. And from David until the exile to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the exile to Babylon until the Messiah, 14 generations. Okay, We just said a bunch of names, and you may be thinking, Nick, this didn't add anything to your point. But I want you to remember, God is in the little details, that God is signing his name here, that we may be filled with wonder when we actually see what he's done. It's almost like God is just winking at us as we discover this truth, letting us know that he even cares and holds the smallest details in his hands. And so as we dive into this, I need to explain a little bit about numerology in biblical terms. In Jewish culture, numbers weren't random. They were rich with meaning. And the Hebrew alphabet actually doubled as numbers. They were letters and numbers, and their sums of the numbers added up meant something. Now, I do have to give a disclaimer. You can go down many rabbit holes that are worthless here. So just be cautious. We're just going to scratch the surface. So before I show you what Matthew did in chapter 1, I'm going to give you an example first. In Revelation, there's a number 666, the mark of the beast. How many of you guys have heard of that? It's everywhere. I know there's wild theories around what 666 means. But when you take the name in Greek, Neron Caesar, and you break his name into numerical value, it equals 666. And this is further confirmed in the Latin text. The number isn't 666, it's 616. And when you take Nero Caesar and his name, it equals 616 also. And so what Revelation is saying is, during the time of Emperor Nero, this is what's happening. And so do you see how in Revelation, even they're using a number to represent and to codify a name? Does that make sense? Okay, so with that in mind, let's take Matthew chapter 1. Grab the whiteboard. What number does Matthew highlight in Matthew chapter 1? 14. Verse 17, and there were 14 generations between here, 14 generations between there, and 14 generations unto Jesus. And so we have Matthew highlighting this number 14. And when you put a name to 14, it looks like this, and it actually spells David. Remember, Matthew's whole point is, I am connecting Jesus to the son of David and to the son of Abraham. And so he's going, hey, I'm going to show you 14 generations. And if you actually go read biblical history, there weren't just 14 generations listed in the Bible. But Matthew is specifically choosing these 14 for a reason. And he's trying to communicate a story to us. And so, and he says this happens 3 times. Right? What's 14 times 3? 42. Good try, Barrett. Was really close. 42. The problem here is that Matthew only lists 41 names. And so either Matthew made an error, or he's doing this intentionally. You can go count the names. There's 41. And so, what do you think Matthew is trying to communicate to us? If he's connected to David, who do you think he's trying to connect to next? Abraham. When you break down Abraham's name, it equals 41. So why do I tell you all of this? Because this seems like such a small thing to worry about. Why do I tell you all this? God's in the details. And it all brings me to this one point. There's many theories on who Matthew thinks the 42nd generation is, because he's claiming there's 14 in each of them. Many theories here. I'm not going to choose just one theory. I'm going to present all of them to you. Because the truth is that all three of them, there's actual evidence for it. And all three of them point to a God who cares about little things like this. And if he cares about little things like this, do you think he cared about the week that I had? Do you think he cares about your trouble and what's going on in your life? Absolutely, he does. And so, let us talk about 42. The first theory, if you notice, David is listed twice, at the end of the first section and at the beginning of the second. And so some people go, well, actually, you're supposed to count David twice. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do think there's something interesting here. The first time David is mentioned, how is he referred to? King David. And the second time he's mentioned, it's simply just David, just man. And we, if you look at the end of the genealogy with Jesus, it's, and Joseph, what does it say about Joseph? The husband of Mary who gave birth to Jesus, and then who is also called the Messiah. And so you have King David, Jesus, Messiah. And it's possible that Matthew's doing a reverse here. I'm going to refer to David as King David and just David, and then I'm going to refer to Jesus as Jesus and then his actual title of Messiah. That is one possibility, that Jesus is both being declared as man and divine. The second possibility, if you notice in the first section, it's Judah and his brothers. In the second section, it's somebody else and his brothers, and you're expecting the third thing to be somebody and his brothers. But there's no brothers mentioned, except for the fact that all throughout Scripture, Jesus refers to his apostles as his brothers. And so is Matthew trying to go, listen, it's Jesus and his brothers, the apostles, the ones who have been sent out. That's possible that Matthew is doing that as well. And I tend to favor the last one. And it's the fact that Galatians 3:29 says this: if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. 3:29. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. And I tend to favor the fact that the 42nd generation is the entire church age. That if you have been found in Jesus the Messiah, you too are a part of the lineage. Again, my mom this morning sent me Romans chapter 8, and it wasn't just that verse. She sent me, I think it was 26 through 34, Mom. And let me just read one of the verses there that's highlighted. Those he foreknew, he also predestined and he called, and he justified, and he glorified. God doesn't skip a generation or a detail. I'm learning this week that God's timing is always best. His math always works out. The pain is always for His will and His kingdom. And that all things will work out for the good of those who love Him, because He is a God who is reliable and can be trusted. Because He's 31 million light years away, He's also living in you. Does that make sense? I know this wasn't much of a sermon. This was I just wanted to nerd for a little bit. So thank you for letting me do that. What stood out to you?